Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I see I didn't scare you off yesterday. Thanks for joining me for this prayerful pause with the pastor in this week following Easter, when we're really looking at answering the question, well, so now what? What does that mean to us? What does resurrection mean to us? What's happening in my life now? How am I doing life differently than I did before the crucifixion and resurrection? And how does that apply to me individually? How does it apply to my faith communities? I'm sure you can extrapolate this and apply it to families or community groups or any other groups of people too. But today's title is I Can See Clearly Now. I may have shared the stories here, but when I was little, I was blessed. I was blessed with how I grew up. The youngest of 4 children. The others are half brothers and sister technically, but we never went by that designation at all. But their mom had died, and then my father remarried after that, and then a few years later I was born. So I was the firstborn and only, and yet I was the youngest of 4. And the age span, the 3 older ones were much older. Next up in age from me was 10 years older and went up to 19 and a half years older. So really, we're talking about a couple generations just within the siblings. It was an interesting way to grow up. But I noticed my parents as I aged. I watched them with my nieces and nephews, some of whom were very near my age. The oldest grandchild was 2 years younger than I. And so I watched them and I paid attention and I listened a lot. And my parents, I was told that one of my first words was yes. Not yeah, but yes. And I was puzzled by this a lot, especially when I was old enough to study a little psychology, and I learned most kids learn no first. Then I began watching my parents with the grandchildren, my nieces and nephews, and I was amazed at what I saw. Because unless it were a real emergency, like somebody's going to, go running out into traffic and you go no or freeze or whatever to get them to stop, my parents would walk over if one of the kids were crawling into something that they shouldn't or doing something that they shouldn't, they would go over and pick them up and say, yes, let's go over here. Yes, let's come to the table now. Yes, let's fill in the blank to divert us to somewhere else. So I realized years later when I really dove into this a lot that but I'm speaking personally now, my outlook on life was that of yes. There were opportunities. Oh, okay, I won't go there. I'll just come over here. And it wasn't a big deal. And it wasn't a no. So when I did hear no, I knew that, whoa, that was no. And you froze. And it was usually used sparingly, shall we say. The reason I bring this up into the I can see clearly now conversation is that our lens determines what we see. If I'm looking through the lens of no and deprivation and limitation, I will see things differently than if I'm looking through the lens of yes with opportunity and possibilities. I believe personally that God uses those lenses to direct us. I believe, for instance, that people who tend to see a lot of no's in their life, they'll run up against, no, you can't go into that field, no, you didn't get that job, in order to channel us into where we're supposed to be, or the options that we are more suited to. Whereas the opposite is true for the yes people. God will use yeses to entice us to do the things where we are best suited. And it's important for each of us, I think, to understand, are we more familiar with a no lens or with a yes lens? Given our druthers, do we tend to see things as no or as yes? And that's especially important when we're talking about later in life and our many options that are available to us when we're no longer children and we are self-actualized adult. Well, I hope self-actualized. We're adults at any rate. That we want to be able to distinguish between either or and also and. Either or is a very cut and dry, black and white, yes, no kind of approach. Also and is more expansive, more inclusive, more options are available. We are shaped by how we look at the world, but the world is also shaped by how we look at it. If, you've heard the old saying, every hammer is looking for a nail. If I go through life always hammering something, I'm looking around for somebody to hammer. If my identity is such that I am really shaped in one way, that's going to be how I interpret life and what I seek out. It's not that the other things aren't there, I just might not recognize them. But if I can train myself, because we're all educable and we are all trainable, we don't have to just stay with what we've learned before. We can grow and be transformed because of resurrection, because of transformation. This is a time in our lives right now, post-Easter, where we can choose how we're going to look at things. And if we've always looked at them one way, now is a good time to practice looking at them a different way, or a way that we choose to have. It doesn't mean we're going to get it right all the time. It's like any kind of a habit. We get used to doing things a certain way. But the more we can become aware of it, and it might be as simple as putting a 3x5 card on the refrigerator or on your clock or your bedside table or medicine cabinet, someplace you're going to see it, maybe next to your television. Put a 3x5 card there that says whatever it is you want to change. Think yes. Or God's in charge. Or what are the options? Whatever it is that we want to form as a habit for us, we can do that. And when we do that, then we're able to see the world differently and recognize the things that we might not have seen before. If I'm a person who always goes through life expecting that I'm only going to have an either or opportunity in front of me, then I'm not going to recognize when I have also and. I'm going to think I have to choose one out of those when I could really choose, a gazillion, right? That's so true of organizations and churches that I work with. They're so used to doing things in one way and having one headset about it that one of the major challenges for churches often is to get them to break out of how they used to see things. Oh, well, we always heard that song played at Christmas. Oh, we always have a trumpet at Easter. Oh, the organist always takes the Sunday after Easter off. What the heck, people? Come on. Think of different options, and that there are more ways than one to worship. There's more ways than one to be church. There's more ways than one or two to set up a worship committee or a personnel committee or a nominating committee or the governing board itself. We are only limited by our own imaginations. And too many of us see the lens through the lens that we've had all our lives, which can be pretty limiting, because sadly many of us were brought up with no, don't do that, no, 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 no. And so then we think, oh, everything's going to be no, and I don't want to get yelled at, so I'm going to do it this way to ensure that I don't get yelled at. I don't want to hear no. But if we can train ourselves to look more at yes and also and, then we'll find that we have a lot more opportunities, a lot more possibilities in front of us. And that's probably enough to give you for today to blow your mind. So yesterday, you were looking at identity, and today I want you to expand that a little bit and be mindful of your own identity and what lenses do you see things through. Yes, we all have socioeconomic lenses, we have racial lenses, we have gender identity lenses, we have all of those. But right now I'm just talking about your basic essence of yourself. How do you look at things? How does your church look at things? And try to expand that a little bit. Okay? Thanks for joining me for this prayerful pause with the pastor. Perfect time to be looking at these things because we're post-resurrection and Jesus offers us new life. What do we want that new life to be? I'm Pastor Deb Swift of both South and Downtown Presbyterian Churches in Rochester, New York. I thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, God bless, take care, be well, be safe, and bye for now.